China made a rare public acknowledgement. This past week, Beijing confirmed on May 8th, 2026, that in May of 2025, they actually supported Pakistan, the Pakistani Air Force, with personnel on the ground. And this was to support the Pakistanis when India launched Operation Sindoor. This past week on May 7th, Chinese state broadcast TV aired an interview with a Chinese engineer from the Shandong Aircraft Design and Research Institute responsible for developing the J-10. China has exported the J-10CE, that E being the export variant of the J-10, which is the fourth generation or 4.5 generation fighter. Now, this is the first time that the J-10 was deployed in major combat operations, and definitely the first time a Chinese fighter is engaged in high-intensity combat. Now, the engineer went on to describe what it was like working on the ground in Pakistan. He was one of the first people that China sent to Pakistan in order to support the J-10 operation. He said at the support base, we frequently heard the roar of fighter jets taking off and the constant wail of air raid sirens. By late morning, in May, the temperature was already approaching 50 degrees Celsius. He said it was an ordeal for us, both mentally and physically. He added that his team of Chinese specialists in Pakistan were driven by a desire to do an even better job with on-site support to ensure their equipment could truly perform at its full combat potential. Now, Pakistan did lose multiple fighters in this conflict, but they were down by the Indian S-400 long-range surface-to-air missile systems, which is exported by Russia. Another Chinese specialist from the Shandong Aircraft Corporation went on and said that the J-10 was a fighter that was like a child. We nurtured it, we cared for it, and finally handed it over to the user. And now it was facing its first major test. He described those being results as outstanding, and they weren't surprised. In fact, it was inevitable. The aircraft just needed the right opportunity, and when that moment came, it delivered exactly as we knew it would. This is a major step for China. They have been doing foreign military sales. This is nothing new. Any nation that does foreign military sales, utilizing one of their defense contractors and exporting their arms for a variety of reasons, anytime they are tested in combat, the J-10, by all accounts from what we have seen, appears to have performed very well. Some of the reports last year came out that they were taking over 125 nautical mile beyond visual range shots with the PL-15. That's their long-range air-to-air missile. That's a very capable and very impressive number. Now, what we don't fully know is whether or not that was an export variant, which would be a watered-down version of the missile, just like the J-10CE that Pakistan has, is most likely a watered-down version of what the Chinese actually fly. Again, this is nothing new to any nation that exports fighter aircraft or any kind of defensive systems. Usually, it's not the full capability that that nation is able to develop that they'll sell to other nations. So maybe it's missing a sensor, a widget, etc. Now, the PL-15E, that air-to-air missile, in open source, in news reports, that is what the Pakistanis had. But you could see that there would be a potential win for China if you actually gave the Pakistanis a full-up round, if you will. That is a great sales pitch. I'm not saying that's what it is. Even if it is the export variant, that is an impressive range in of itself. Now, the number of aircraft shot down, it still seems to vary depending on who you're talking to. But it has been confirmed that Pakistan did shoot down numerous Indian fighter jets, upwards of 3 Rafales, a Su-30, and a MiG-29. There have been pictures of J-10s with 6 kill marking. Now, I don't think that one J-10 shot down 6 planes. Maybe that's the case, but it might just be more or less bragging rights for that squadron or for the Pakistani Air Force. At least in the U.S. Air Force, the jet that physically shoots the missile or drops the bomb, that's the one that's getting the silhouette painted on it. And if we look around the Air Force with jets that have had numerous air-to-air kills, you'll see a green star painted on it. And that jet is the one that the missile physically came off of. So maybe this J-10 shot down 6 jets. I doubt it. But again, there is mixed reporting depending on who you're listening to, the number of aircraft that were shot down. In the end, I think that's beside the point for what we're talking about here. China has accounted for nearly 80% of Pakistan's foreign military sales since 2021. This shows the deepening ties. Pakistan is also slated to be the first customer of the J-35. That's China's newest 5th-generation fighter. We did a video on it just a few weeks ago. I think it is significant because with the J-35, not only do you have deepening ties, but they put a pretty tight timeline on receiving the J-35, expecting J-35s to start showing up in China this year. Why that matters is because it's such a new jet. That would be a litmus test, I think, and a measure of the health of the J-35 program. If the Chinese are able to start exporting a squadron worth of J-35s every year or 2 squadrons every year so early in the program, that would be a major milestone. And again, I think a good litmus test for the health of that program. So we'll see how that one plays out. There definitely is strategy in having interoperability if you go into a conflict with a partner nation, having your equipment talk to one another. That's another conversation of itself. There's obviously money involved, which supports your military industrial complex, your nation, etc. But here, I think we see China, while they have been exporting a lot of military hardware over the years, a fighter jet is a major weapon system. Obviously, very complex, requires a lot of support, a lot of training, and a lot of know-how from the technicians, the maintenance personnel that work on the engines, the avionics, to the pilots that fly them. It's not something you can just buy, pick up off the shelf, and go out and use it. It takes years in order to be able to do it. So now we see an export variant of a fighter that has performed well in combat, and the Chinese have been able to support it during combat operations. All these are definitely not insignificant milestones, as well as this is a great advertising opportunity for the Chinese and their military hardware. Undoubtedly, countries are looking at how this hardware performs. When it comes to making decisions on the next fighter jet to buy, the next piece of military hardware to buy, having a portfolio of successful engagements in performance cannot hurt the Chinese when it comes to selling this equipment. All this comes together when these nations are weaving diplomacy, economics, their military, in making these type decisions. More information coming out about the J-10's performance during Operation Sindoor is definitely a win for China, given its performance here. And I think maybe we'll see more of it, as it's not an unexpected thing for countries to tout their military hardware performance engagements across the globe. Now, I'm sure there is a little bit of a wrinkle when it comes to India and their relations and investing in Beijing, but that might just be overlooked by China, as this could be a significant win in selling future hardware across the globe. If you like this type of content, make sure you check out our free newsletter down below. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you next time.